Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
So I see people arriving. I see people from all around the world. I see people from Belgium, from Australia, from Singapore, of course. So it's a delight to see you all here. This technology is wonderful. I love it. Every day a bit more. Connecting people, whoever they are. So I propose we wait just 1-2 minutes more, because I see there is a lot of attendees registered missing. So bear with us, just maybe 1-2 minutes more. And what is even more wonderful, I see people from BLBG, I see people from KeyNote. So this wonderful first collaboration, thanks to you all. First members, attendees, and all the team that has been working on it. So maybe 1 minute more, and after I will start. See people arriving. So don't hesitate to leave your cameras on. I think it's nice that we see each other. So if you are not speaking, just mute yourself and unmute yourself at when you have to speak, or at the end, of course, for the Q&A. I'll leave you manage this. I know that sometimes you can have some background noise. So, but again, for the one that can, don't hesitate to put your camera. I love to see you all, and I'm sure you like to see each other as well. Hi, Shur, Dairod, Nadine, not the pleasure to know you, but Catherine, Tara, Florence, Bart, Ingrid. I see some of you as well with iPhone and so on. So I think you can rename yourself. Don't hesitate to put your name. I think it's nicer as well for the others after, if they want to connect. It can be a plus. So don't hesitate to rename, put your name on. Okay, so maybe considering that it's 6:03, I propose, ladies and gentlemen, that I start with the introduction, which should take probably 4 or 5 minutes, and it will give the time to the people arriving late, not being late anyway, for the presentation, which is the most important, of course. So exceptionally, allow me a few minutes for presenting BLBG. So we don't do it usually because we do events with our members. But as tonight we are going to have this fantastic first event with KeyNote Speaker Association, I will take a couple of minutes to present what is BLBG and what we do for the KeyNote speaker. In the same way, for our BLBG member tonight, I think it would be very interesting to know what KeyNote KeyNote Women Speaker Association does. And I will take as well a couple of minutes to present this association. So without waiting more, let me introduce KeyNote Women Speaker. So it's the world leading directory of female public speakers, founded in Singapore in 2017. KeyNote is a non-profit organization run entirely by volunteers. I think this is important to notice. KeyNote aims to bring more diversity to stage around the world. Through its directory, KeyNote offers women speakers who can talk about different topics ranging from business, innovation, future of work, health, any topic. I would say, bottom line, you will find KeyNote speakers, women, that will be able to speak about this topic. But this is not about as well only women speaking in public, is as well about learning for women how to speak in public. So they run as well training programs to train all these women that want to stand out in terms of speaking. So you can, as a woman as well, apply to this program. And I encourage any woman here tonight that want to improve his speaking skills, whatever it is, let's say for family or whatever it is for business, to look into KeyNote. That is a wonderful program. So if you have any more questions about how this program runs for improving confidence in speaking and so on, Binu Balan, that is the Sales and Partnership Director, is here with us tonight. She hid in black. Binu, I want to see you. So Binu will be delighted to answer to any question that you would have, okay? So I think it's really interesting to realize that, I mean, the parity is not yet there between men and women, and there are a lot of wonderful women that do not dare to speak out there. So this is really what is about KeyNote, is really helping, supporting this woman to stand out and to speak in any kind of event. So wonderful job, ladies. Now that I've presented KeyNote for the BLBG members, please allow me a couple of minutes to present BLBG to the KeyNote members that are here with us tonight. So BLBG is about a Belgian and Luxembourg association. In fact, we are a chamber of commerce. We just became a chamber of commerce lately. So what is a chamber of commerce? I mean, there are different definitions, but I think what is really important is to understand maybe what we do here in Singapore for Belgium and Luxembourg, but as well for local and Asian people here in the region. So BLBG is about supporting Belgium and Luxembourg businesses and professionals in Singapore, of course, but is as well for doing this, creating content seminar and networking events, and helping as well local companies to better understand the culture and how to work with Belgium and Luxembourg. What I love to say is that BLBG is a bridge between all the communities in order to promote, facilitate, support business for Belgium, Luxembourg, and Singaporean, of course, mainly because we are based in Singapore. So again, all the ladies that have business tonight and they are not yet in our community, even by the way, if they are not Belgian and Luxembourg, we accept all citizenship and all nationalities. Please don't hesitate to contact Jackie, Caroline, myself. I know that there is a lot of board members with us tonight. Sjoerd, Bart, I see Claudia. So don't hesitate to contact us for having any more information. So this was exceptional. I'm taking already like 8 minutes, so I'm going to rush. So tonight we have a wonderful event. It's about balancing head with heart. I love this title. Why? Because it's, even if we are talking about some kind of business and how this can help for businesses, it's taking as well in consideration us all in all about not only the head, not only the business part, but let's say the human part of us. So tonight we have Lissy Puno. So thank you very much, Lissy, for accepting to be speaker with us tonight. And we have Aarathy, Arumugam, that are going to present us what resilience is and is not. And they are explaining us how we can cope and have some strategies during uncertain times like the one that we are living now for assisting in building resilience. And I'm sure that after the Lissy Puno introduction, let's say, who is a scientific, more scientific one, because she's really counseling psychologist, famous one. We will have Aarathy that is going to tell us very nice stories to explain a bit more. So I know you all know what you came here tonight. So let me introduce you to these two wonderful women, KeyNote speakers. So Lissy is a counseling psychologist. She has been working in more than 5 countries. She's the author of a few books. Affairs Don't Just Happen, Protect, Repair, and Recover. And his last book was Stay Connected. So I'm quite sure that through his story, she will speak about it a bit. So about Aarathy, She's a famous entrepreneur, and she organizes events. So I think we have a link, Aarathi, regarding BLBG and your businesses. So she facilitated the organization of the event, and for families, she do professional and let's say private. But I like the idea that you do it for families and so on. So connecting, let's say, to our mother nature as a woman, and as well running a full business around it. So thank you so much, ladies, all of you, Aarathi, Lizzie for accepting this challenge, Binu for bringing this event idea, Caroline, Jackie for helping to organize it. Lizzie, the floor is yours. Have a wonderful evening all together.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you for that introduction and warm welcome. We are so happy to make this collaboration between BLBG and KeyNote, and I'm happy to be part of it. Thank you so much for the team that's organized this and put it together. I'm, of course, looking forward to just really talking about this topic on resilience and balancing heart and head, because it continues to be very, very relevant to all that we are experiencing today. And I'd like to start my presentation with a slide that has a quote from a book called The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. And this is the first line of the book. And it goes this way: life is difficult. And I think we know that in the last few months, we have experienced some level of difficulty that we might have sort of like experienced in different levels, depending on who we are as people, our personality, and our temperaments. Now, life is difficult because there is stress all around us. And we know that the stressors are actually mounting in our lives and in many different ways. In our families and our homes, in our relationships, parenting children, taking care of aging parents. And aside from that, expanding that to our businesses, our jobs, if you have children, to students, and stressors would be everywhere. People are anticipating even greater stressors when it comes to job security, finances, environmental changes, and of course, a lot has been focused on health issues. Now, when we think about how this stress impacts us, most of the time when stressors are increasing, the stress seems to be an overwhelming threat, and we imagine ourselves coping with it in a very small way. And with this, when this happens, we can feel overwhelmed, distressed, hopeless, and feeling helpless. Now, I know you've had a talk about this a few weeks ago. So depending on your temperament, depending on who you are, you might have reacted quickly to a stressful situation with your reasonable mind or with your head, thinking about what can I do about this situation? How can I fix it? What are the solutions? When that happens, then the part that the heart needs to work on, such as kindness and empathy, might not be given as much attention. And then, of course, we have the opposite happening. If you are more accessing the heart function and your emotional mind takes the more active role during stressful times, then there is a decrease in thinking. And people are saying that I feel like I'm amidst a fog, a mind fog. I'm not able to focus anymore with my work, with my business, and so on. So depending on who you are as a person, you would react either with the emotional mind, the heart, or the reasonable mind, the head. Whatever way you react, there are three things that we need as people that has actually been taken away by COVID-19, or is taken away when we are in a stressful situation. And these top three needs of people, safety, connection, and passion, are very important for us to go on with life. And clearly, as an example, COVID-19 took away our safety when it came to our physical health. Social distancing took away our connection, and definitely passion, because our goals, our dreams, our plans for the year has also been taken away. I mean, we are all supposed to be on our summer holidays, which we are truly passionate about. And unfortunately, right now, we are unable to do that. So how does it feel to be unsafe, disconnected, and lacking in passion? It doesn't feel too great. And when this happens, we realize that life throws things at us often, all the time, when we think about our stressors. Sometimes it throws us a big one, just like COVID-19. Some people, though, oops, let me just see what's going on. Some people, though, will bounce back. Others may crumble, while others will inspire us with the humility to break through the difficult times and emerge successful. Now, this is a challenge for all of us to think about. Are we going to break down amidst the stressors in life? Are we going to break even, or are we going to break through? Breaking down, of course, means that we are stuck in hopelessness and helplessness, despair and distress. Breaking even talks about endurance, that we will survive this. And of course, breaking through means we will emerge amidst these difficult times with growth and success and compassion for ourselves. So think about it today, and hopefully after this presentation, we would have inspired you to really aim for a breakthrough through these difficult times. What is the ingredient that we need? We need resilience. And I'm sure you've heard this word so much in the past few months. Resilience is the ability to bounce back when things don't go as planned. We maybe started the year with our business plans, with our fitness plans, with our travel plans, and now all of that is gone. Resilience is also the capacity to recover from difficulty, which I hope we are all aiming for post-COVID. Now, resilience should look like this, that when we think of stress as a threat, we have an equal amount of coping to respond to it in order to bounce back. Now, what does research tell us about resilience? Everyone can be resilient. No one is born resilient, but resilience is developed and is learned. And 50% of resilience is learned through our parents in our early childhood experiences. So for those of you who have children, your role is so significant. Now, when it comes to resilience, individual differences have to be highlighted because it's not a one-size-fits-all. In fact, sometimes we have a lot of resilience, sometimes we have a little of it. It will vary from situation to situation. What are key things that research is telling us about resilience? That a good support system is key. It is usually modeled by mentors and coaches, teachers and parents. And a caring relationship that we are coming from could truly nurture resilience through the years. Now, resilience is so important because it guarantees or it promises a healthy, happy life. It strengthens character to prepare us for the future. It motivates us to learn new things. It offers life meaning as we go through these experiences that might be difficult and yet teaches us to be resilient. It strengthens our coping skills. And of course, it is the super protector from mental health illness. And so there are so many things that resilience promises to give us. And so we hope that resilience is the way to go. But the reality is, they are predicting that after this COVID-19 pandemic, we are facing a mental health pandemic. There are so many red flags. Why is it becoming harder for people to bounce back? That in the recent years that we are looking for a cure for the virus, people are struggling with their mental health. Well, unfortunately at this time, even before COVID, We viewed life in a way that we wanted to live life psychologically clean. Now, what does that mean, right? It means that we have forgotten how to be sad. That curated life that social media presents to us, we sometimes think that resilience means living a psychologically clean life. But the reality is, setbacks and negative experiences is what would breed resilience. The second one is, we believe that being resilient is in a state of never experiencing negative emotions, because nobody wants negative emotions. Nobody posts pictures of negative emotions. But the reality is, bad feelings breed resilience. Negative feelings is what strengthens our coping mechanisms in order to emerge resilient. People think that resilience is living a perfect life, and we pressure ourselves to be perfect, to be the best, to do things well, to be the most successful, and people are not developing the courage to be imperfect. But the reality is, resilience can emerge through mistakes that we might experience in life, because mistakes are opportunities to learn, opportunities to grow. There is also a new view of people, that people are so fragile. We need to snowplow and remove obstacles in life because we are unable to cope with them in a way that we emerge successful. So there's so much fragility and sensitivity that surrounds people these days. But the truth is, competence, capability breeds resilience. So we are not weak, we are strong, we are competent and capable. Now, life these days tends to be quite individualistic. Of course, my special interest is on marriage and relationships, parent-child relationships. And unfortunately, there comes a stage in life when we are thinking, what about my happiness? What about me, right? And unfortunately, being individualistic will not help you be resilient. What helps resilience is to be outward looking, the opportunity to contribute to the community, the ability to share and engage with other people. This is what makes one person resilient. Black and white thinking. We think we can make decisions either black or white, but the reality is gray areas are needed in resilience. We need to be flexible enough to look at different points of view, different perspectives in life. Is there another way of thinking about this? And this is one of the stronger attitudes for resilience. Now, as we all know, social media has had a big impact on us in terms of wanting instant gratification, instant success. You know, kids want to be YouTubers, kids want to be athletes, and yet they're not willing to do the hard work. And in order to be resilient, hard work is needed, only because it does not come instantly. So we know what resilience is not. We know what resilience, what we actually need to be resilient. And so I hope that this can clarify a lot of things, understanding on resilience. Yeah, we go through life with too much choices. There's so many things that, you know, we can choose from in life. And sometimes we end up confusing ourselves. But the reality is, resilient people know that life is made up of limited choices. We can't have everything instantly. Now, the lockdown, okay, worked like a social experiment. It suddenly illuminated so many things about us that have remained hidden. And so I hope that this period of the circuit breaker has allowed you to discover your own resilience. We don't only need endurance this time because we don't know when it is going to end. What we actually need is resilience. So I'd like to challenge you today as I end this presentation with a few factors on resilience. What do you actually need to develop in the next few months in order to prepare yourselves in becoming more resilient? Well, physical health is one of the things that, of course, that is truly important. And that is made up of adequate sleep, a healthy diet, and regular exercise. If you have an existing medical condition, of course, please continue to be medically compliant. And of course, good hygiene, good grooming, taking care of our bodies continues to make us feel good about ourselves. So for all of you who are with us tonight, I'd like to ask you to rate yourselves in the first factor of resilience, physical health. Where are you at this stage? Weak, moderate, or strong? The second factor is healthy thinking. We need to take care of what we give our thought, what we give attention to in our thoughts and in our minds. We will breed what we feed. And if we feed negative thoughts, this is what will grow in our minds for it to be a reality. So I encourage you to spend time with positive thoughts, manage your negative thoughts, and I'd love to introduce to you this technique of the 1:4 rule. For every one negative thought, counteract with 4 positive thoughts. Be open to different viewpoints. These days, we have different views on how safe it is out there, the pandemic, and what it means to us. And I think what we need to understand is, especially in relating to other people, to just respect their own level of views about safety and anxiety and fears and worries. So again, rate yourself. How positive are your thoughts? How much of healthy thinking do you practice? Give yourself a rating. Weak, moderate, and strong. You never know, Isabel and Bino might check your ratings later on just to make sure that the community is resilient, right? Now, self-esteem. A good self-image of who you are as you face difficult stressors in life. The belief that you are worthy, you are capable, you are competent. Engaging in self-talk that will really grow your self-esteem. The positive self-image that will see you through the challenges that may come your way. And of course, nobody is perfect, as we said earlier. So the acceptance of the self in terms of strengths as well as limitations. So how strong is your self-esteem? Rate yourself, weak, moderate, or strong. Moving along, coping skills, okay? It is the manner in which we are able to manage our emotions in healthy ways. And when our emotions rise up for us, again, the hard part of our emotions, we need to be aware of our reactions and balance it off in order to make sure that we can effectively communicate and problem solve and look for options and choices and alternatives to the situation in order for us to be able to break through, if not break through, then at least break even. So now thinking about how good your problem-solving skills are, rate yourself, weak, moderate, or strong. The next one is social support. We heard that resilience based on research is showing us that having a good social support system is really key. So engaging with others, now that we are on phase 2, connecting with people once again in a safe way, learning to ask for help, having that sense of belongingness, and just really feeling that camaraderie, just all of that joyful connection that you could have socially will always allow us to view life with more joy, with more happiness when shared with other people. And lastly, sense of purpose. As I said earlier, one of the things that COVID took away from us is our sense of passion. We are unsure whether we are able to continue with our plans, our hopes and goals for the year, but continue to find meaningful involvement in your life roles. in your work, in your education, if you're a volunteer or other roles that you might have in your life, please continue to recreate, look for meaning, even simple sense of purpose in what you're doing. During the circuit breaker time, people were spending time in the kitchen, exercising, connecting via Zoom calls and all of that, giving you that sense of fulfillment and accomplishment in your own little way. For those of you who continue to work from home, continue to manage their businesses from a distance, strengthen your sense of purpose in order to really put together a good balance of all these ingredients that is needed to stay resilient. And if you're able to do all 6 of those, then I can imagine that your wise mind will give you access to a lot of thoughts, feelings, and actions that will keep things balanced, right? So not only the emotional mind, not only the reasonable mind, but the balance of the two. If you are able to think of your physical health, maintain healthy thinking, believe in your self-esteem, strengthen your coping skills, access your social support, and of course, maintain that sense of purpose that truly gives meaning in your life, this will maintain the balance. So I leave you with this challenge. Which path are you on? Sometimes our heart, because of COVID and significant stressors, we've felt the helplessness, the hopelessness, the despair, the depression, and the dependence. I challenge you to shift that and work with the head in order to emerge competent, nurturing, growing, and compassionate to yourself and to other people. And so I leave you with these thoughts as we continue to listen to stories on how this actually comes to life, which Aarathy will start to share with us shortly. But before that, we are very eager to know a little bit about what you think resilience is all about. And so we are going to quickly pull up a poll that Isabel will send all of you. Please take a few seconds to answer this so that you'll discover what the answer is after Aarathy gives us her presentation.
So please don't hesitate to vote between is resilience about nature or about nurture.
Thank you very much, Lizzie.
Aarathi, I think the answer is quite clear.
Quite clear.
About nurture. The floor is yours.
It is very clear. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in the poll. Good evening. Thank you very much for choosing to spend your evening with us here today. So let's look at the results. I mean, nobody voted for nature. Everyone says nurture. And really, essentially, I guess the reason I asked this question is essentially the thing that I always ask is, do you have to have experienced loss to develop or cultivate resilience? And really, in my experience, it's a combination of both. It's not necessarily true for everybody, obviously. I mean, humans, we're all different. And sometimes it's nature to want to challenge yourself with an experience that while you're in the middle of it, you suddenly have a beam me up Scotty moment, right? Like, whose bright idea was this? But then even if you're not that person, life gets in the way. I think resilience is a set of behaviors, as Lizzie pointed out, that you cultivate over time. That's usually taught, right? It's learned from a guardian, like a parent. But ask yourself this: where does their wisdom come from, right? Usually it's because they've had an experience of loss, of trauma, of tragedy, etc., which then allows them that maturity, that foresight to recognize some teaching moments in your life, in their lives, to then help you cultivate the behaviors of resilience. I mean, when I was growing up, and I'm sure when you were growing up, I would hazard a guess, you were not exactly told, these are the challenges that will build resilience, right? I mean, you just muddled your way through with life and you got on with things. It's only now when you stop and reflect in adulthood, because obviously you have that maturity of thinking, that you realize it was all those layers of small moments that build this database of responses to help you adapt every time something more and more challenging comes along. Lizzie had this amazing graph just now with the two, different factors that you have to have in place. And it is something that keeps changing and it evolves all through your life. I mean, it starts with the very rudimentary experiences. I've been watching my daughter, she's 9. And she's been navigating, she's a girl, she goes to an all-girls school, just to give you a context. And she's been navigating these minor heartbreaks, but there's so many, right? There are heartbreaks, which is adolescent school friendships, okay? Let me give you an example. So her best friend in class, they've known each other since kindergarten. So they went through nursery, kindergarten, and now they're in primary 3 together. And during the circuit breaker, they missed each other so much that, after that home-based learning online sessions, they would get back on, in the evening, and they would have these long chats, 45 minutes, 1 hour. And they just, they were so into each other for that, I don't know, a couple of months. After circuit breaker, back to school, there was so much excitement with the prospect of seeing each other again. When she got to school, she came home that day and said, she doesn't want to talk to me. She's just stopped talking to me. Of course, no apparent reason. And this went on for a week. She was gutted, as you can imagine, and just couldn't figure it out. She made the difficult decision to leave this girl alone. She went back the following week, and as you can probably guess, everything was well, without so much as an explanation. So I asked my daughter if she was going to ask this girl what was wrong, or to try and find out what happened, and she declined. She decided that she was going to focus on the fact that they were talking now, instead of focusing on the negativity and lack of reasons from the past week. Now, why? Why did this 9-year-old decide to forgive these transgressions and get on with living and loving, get on with living a friendship that might last a decade? Did she forget the heartbreak, the insecurity, and the humiliation? Not at all. What she's done is she's decided to accept the good. And that's how it starts. Building resilience starts from just deciding that I'm not going to look at the negativity. It's there, right? It doesn't mean that that pain and that hurt goes away. It doesn't mean that I don't experience all of that. But I've decided I'm going to use it as a divine lesson so that I can start practicing these losses and recoveries. So it got me asking this question. Even at this early stage, is it nature or nurture? So the poll was my idea. I'm sorry about that. Now, if it is our nature to balance heart, but traditionally we've been taught to always lead with head, isn't resilience a decision to balance the two, to balance nature and nurture? Okay, I'm going to ask for a bit of help, and you can use your videos and put up your hands, or you can use the little hand raise button on Zoom. I'd like to have a show of hands. How many of you have suffered a loss of business, of income, of someone you truly love? Can you raise your hands? Okay, now keep those hands up. Okay, keep those hands up. How many of you now have experienced some other kinds of trauma? You've had your heart broken, or you've been divorced, or you've been bullied? Excellent. Okay, keep them up, keep them up. I should put up my hand. And how many of you had to struggle through infertility or miscarriage, or have had to struggle through mental illness? Okay, so if you can just look around your screens, or the room for that matter, every one of us have been through something, right? How many of us have decided to attempt a marathon or to climb that amazing mountain? Okay, you've decided to put yourself in that situation. Going through different kinds of hell of our own, sometimes several times over. And yet, to borrow from the great Bob Marley, you've all chosen to get up, stand up, and not give up the fight, right? And it is these stories, these changes in circumstances that have helped build your resilience. Because formally or informally, you've been given these tools from a young age, or from, a few years ago, to recognize these as instances that's required you to practice the skill of resilience. I say practicing the skill of resilience because it is. Every time there's a new challenge, every time there's a new trauma, your body and your mind and your heart have to come into this room to practice these skills. Now, I'm a small business owner. I run events. Now, just keeping a business ticking is in itself a series of small instances of practicing resilience. If I had a whole day, you would have a whole list of instances. Like the time I didn't have enough cash to pay salaries. Like the time I didn't have, I had an event manager who was left in charge while I was away on holiday. And I came back to, or at least I opened my email, to irate clients because she had actually just gone missing. And so I had to refund deposits, etc. And we lost a whole month and a half of events. Or the time when, on the eve of a large outdoor Halloween event, all 11 of my staff called in sick with food poisoning because they'd been to the same event and were all out. What pulled me through? Yes, first panic, but then trying to balance the rational and the emotional. The emotional, which is why me, why now, why does this always have to happen? But also the rational, good things happen. So why shouldn't the bad things happen? And because of all these tools that I've already had through the years, I found the strength to accept that bad things sometimes happen. It is part of life. And I'm going to move forward as best I can. But it's also about making connection, which Lizzie mentioned, right? Making connections with real people to bolster your strength. And so I did. I spoke up to as many people as I could, telling them about this crazy thing that 11 of my staff have just gone, they're bedridden, literally. So that I could turn up on that day to this very important event with the vision of a team, never mind that they were not trained ever, but I needed to turn up with that vision of a team so that I could get the job done. But there's so much fear around this speaking up, right? About failures, about challenges. Oh my goodness, what if somebody I speak to knows the person who's paying me to organize this event? Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? It's this fear of speaking up. I call it phosphoitis. But that's the thing, the speaking up, that's the thing that's going to help you make connection, give you strength, and therefore the resilience to go forward. This making connections is something I learned from a very personal challenge. And it's about starting a family. Trying to fall pregnant for me was like trying to bake a basic butter cake. I had all the ingredients and I had the recipe, which I thought I followed to a T, but time and again, my cake was a flop. And I just couldn't figure out why. And meanwhile, all around me, everyone else was baking perfect little butter cakes. And as you can imagine, I was on the receiving of some pretty irritating advice like maybe your eggs aren't fresh or your oven's too hot. Now, it took time for me to learn this, but because it was so personal, it was me. But speaking up about the pain and the humiliation, the feeling of not being in control, it helped me focus on the things that I could control. So what did I do? How could I work out a way to tune up the negative and move forward? So I decided to accept the good that was around me. I wanted to find a way to help me take control. So I found out why was this happening? Readdressing the why of starting a family. Did I really want to do this? And then ultimately opting for the good that was out there, which were, in my case, assisted procedures, adoption options, which is a whole bumper episode of resilience building right there, which I'm not going to go into. But it is about having hope that if I traverse through this journey, if I actively participate in this trouble time, I'll come out the other side with tools to deal with something else. And somehow maybe I'll be stronger. It doesn't mean that it stops hurting. It doesn't mean that the feelings of shame or failure goes away. I still hurt. But does it mean that I used it to move forward? Yes. It's called failing forward. And it's about also asking this question, is what I'm doing helping or harming me to recover? Is it helping me to recover? Is it helping me to achieve that promotion? Is it helping me to complete this marathon? Is it helping me to just get out of bed? And I asked this question a lot when I found myself sailing in the middle of the North Atlantic Sea late last year. I was so yes, I'm one of these people who puts herself into these situations. I was on a maiden voyage of a citizen scientific mission to study the effects of plastics on the ocean. We were 14 women on an all-women crew, and only 5 people had sailing experience. I think you can hazard a guess that I was not one of those 5. Our voyage was fraught with horrendous weather right from the get-go. We were constantly caught in the eye of storms. We were thrown about so much. It was a little 72-foot vessel. I was always either wet or damp, tired, and just always felt totally battered every day. I have bruises to prove that. Every day was a new experience in traumatizing my body and my mental state. And I kid you not, I felt like I was a victim of a heist, you know, stuck on this vessel with no immediate way out. And it started getting me down. So by asking myself this question, is this mental loop harming me? Is it harming my spirit when I still had more days in the middle of nowhere? So every time I didn't think I couldn't do another midnight watch out on that cold deck, or every time I thought this was it, this is it, I'm going to drown because we just literally tipped over, I just started looking around me. And I realized that there were others in the same boat as me, like literally. We all shared a similar reality. And the unfamiliar was suddenly familiar because we all recognized the same state of mind in each other, the state of body in each other. And suddenly the feelings of victim, of being a victim, being sorry for myself, morphed into this feeling of being unbreakable. I can do this. I've done it for 3 days. Why can't I do it for another 3 days, and then another 3 days, and then another 3 days? So I decided to use it to help me. And really, for that moment, all I wanted was to just get through this. I wanted to get off the boat in one piece. That's all I wanted at that stage. And that's how I did it. By asking yourself the question, is re-looking at my grand business expansion plans for pre-pandemic 2020 helping me or harming me? Is going to a baby shower for a friend who didn't really want to have a family helping me or harming me? It invites you to use that vulnerability and turn it into your strength. I think that's what resilience is. It's a quiet strength that you learn from almost allowing yourself to have gone through these experiences. And you have to allow yourself. You have to choose. Again, I think it's something that Lizzie earlier said. You have to choose to put yourself in a challenging time. Don't turn away. Make that choice to use it. Because this is when you will learn how to practice that skill of resilience. And by no means, it's not a one-stop lesson, as I'm sure you all know. It is a constant. It doesn't end with the one challenge or one trauma. Resilience is, I think, a work in progress. Lizzie, would you agree?
Thanks, Binu. Yes, definitely. I think, you know, we grow with every experience that come into our lives and emerge even more resilient than we were. Thank you so much, Aarathy, for that inspiring stories that you've shared with us. Wonderful. Your bravery in that sailing experience is just admirable. So thank you so much.
You can say it, Lizzie, it's mad.
Well, you know, I mean, I can just imagine you in that boat and just really sort of like hoping that, I mean, for myself, I can speak for myself, that I have not done anything as daring as that. And I will keep you in mind the next time I have that challenge come up for me. So there you go. Now, so should we jump into some questions? I mean, well, first of all, before the questions, Aarathy, can you share with us your mantra? Do you have a mantra? When things get tough, when you were in that boat, what did you actually tell yourself that, you know, got you through? I would be eager to know what that mantra is.
Well, so after constantly, like every day, I would ask myself, whose bright idea was this? My mantra has always been to go and do it. Just do it, right? My whole life has been a series of experiences. I've always felt that I need and I want to build on experiences because that is a sum of a person. So yeah, what got me through the boat is, oh my God, one more day, just one more day.
And is there something maybe that you could tell people who are not ready to, you know, expand their comfort zone and that they're really just wanting to keep it safe? I mean, is there something that an advice or, you know, a challenge that you could share with them, that you might share with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, everybody has their own limits of what they think is risky, okay, and what they think is safe. So decide for yourself, for your limits, decide what is risky for you, right? And take that step. So don't, like, for example, if you're not somebody who, like me, will go into the middle of the ocean, don't do that, right? But if you've never been on a kayak, for example, okay, that's fairly okay to do. Take that step, right? Just do a short ride on a kayak. Just what I would say is put yourself in your risky position. Don't look at what other people think is risky and go do that, right? Decide what you think is risky and give yourself, allow yourself, actually, even better, empower yourself to try it.
Lizzie, Aarathi, thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's been delightful. So I think we have already a few questions now from some members. So I propose, Rod, that you unmute your camera, your mic, sorry, camera is okay. And you speak directly to these wonderful women that we have with us tonight and express your questions directly, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Isabella, and thank you, ladies, for a very inspiring presentation. A lot to think about. My question is we've got, many of us have got teams working remotely, either at home or in different countries, and they're all being impacted in different ways by the whole COVID experience and so many different facets that we're all going through. Do you have any thoughts around what sort of actions or activities a leader can deliver remotely to their teams to help build resilience?
Right. Thank you for that question. And, I've done a few webinars for companies in order to, really promote team building. Before I answer that question, first, I'd like to share with you that the effect of the work from home experience in teams and businesses has been experienced, as you can imagine, in a variety of ways, okay? Staff have shared that, they weren't sure how accessible their managers are, their supervisors are, their business owners. They weren't sure if they were able to actually, just ask questions, get some directions, and really just get some reassurance if any of their goals were actually going to be met. And so there was a lot of discouraging feelings, right? And of course, there was isolation in working from home and maybe not getting as much support as they wanted. So really, if you can offer sort of like team building exercise to build resilience remotely, yes, please gather your team together. And what comes to mind are three sort of like exercises that I've offered that has given me feedback that it's given them, a greater sense of coping, support from one another, and so on. The first one is to gather together. I'm sure you're gathering together socially, maybe via Zoom, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you have done anything that was just purely social or just purely to connect in the heart level. Okay, so if you could just allow them to talk about themselves, to talk about their experiences, and you can imagine in a company that is, culturally diverse, they are experiencing the fear and the anxiety and the emotions maybe differently. And so something as simple as, okay, here are 3 questions that we're going to ask our team. We're going around the circle that is in the level of the heart, How are you doing? How are you feeling? What is the impact of this experience to you personally? That's one. The second one is to actually gather together as a team to connect for pure pleasure. Okay, pure enjoyable, either an online game or a trivia that you can play as a team, just for pure laughter. And then to help them balance their days, right? Because sometimes, when working from home, the boundaries of how much time is for work and how much for personal can be confused, right? Especially if you have dedicated staff members. So encourage them to have a work-life balance, encourage them to practice self-care. One of the things that you can do remotely is have a self-care buddy and make a list of all the different components of self-care, come up with a checklist and check on one another to make sure that they are adequately taking care of themselves. And I mean, those are just a few ideas that you can do together. I encourage people to balance their day using the acronym ACE, A-C-E, achievement, connection, enjoyable. So of course, their work is something that they're doing, achieving deadlines and deliverables, connecting with people, either with your team or with their family and friends, and of course, E, doing something enjoyable.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. So, Shurd, if you don't mind to make yourself and so I think we will be the last question for the night, because I think it's a couple of minutes left. Floor is yours, Shurd.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Lissy and Aarathi, for 2 absolutely beautiful presentations. Truly enjoyed it.
Thank you.
My question is the following. In times of crises, we often see that people keep or build their resilience through sheer denial, denial that there is a problem. And of course, today, if we think at COVID, we can look at Trump, we can look at Bolsonaro, but the same thing exists in companies when commercial problems occur. My question is, how can we help such leaders to face reality and build true resilience rather than resilience through denial?
Right. Aarathy, do you want to jump in to answer that? Then I'll follow.
Yeah, so I think it is that building our culture of being able to talk about it, that freedom and that empowerment of having a team and therefore having a leader who's comfortable enough to talk about it. This, I mentioned fossilitis, and it's like you say, it's prevalent in every company, right across the board, small, large, multinational, doesn't matter. But I think it's cultivating that culture of, very similar to what Lizzie was saying, get together and talk about what's going on, developing that culture of having a leader who puts that mirror up and says, okay, this is a problem. This is what I'm facing. How can we as a team solve it? Or this is my solution. What do you think? I think that helps start breaking down individual personal barriers, as well as encourages a team to also give feedback and also talk about what's troubling them. Lizzie?
I go back to the first, I go back to the top 3 needs that individuals have: safety, connection, and passion. And sometimes when you have a leader who has a different concept of safety, connection, and passion, it will be truly challenging for their followers or their staff or their employees to have a leader who does not get it, right? Who does not get their level of safety, connection, and passion, right? There are always 2 worlds, and we are quick to tell the other person that your world is garbage, get out of there. And as true leaders, I encourage you to get into the garbage of the stress and the distress of the other person. Feel it with them, understand with them, and walk out together. Now, it's very difficult to be a leader in that way because there are certain blocks in wanting to cross over to the world of the other. But I encourage you to encourage your staff, your employees, to talk to you about their safety, their need for connection, and their passion, short-term goals, long-term goals, whatever gives them meaning and purpose, in order for them to be able to say, you get them, you get their world. Now, these world leaders who unfortunately we might not have access to, we want to make sure that in our little communities, we are mini leaders who will not be trapped in denial, but will be willing to get into the world of the other and be compassionate and kind in order to share their world and emerge resilient together.
We do our humble best.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, I can only thank you for this wonderful presentation. It has been delightful, and I'm sure we'll agree with me. We have enjoyed this evening. Really, it was really delightful to hear you. So thank you so much for this first co-organization between KeyNote and BLBG. Binu, a last word from you, if you allow.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Like Isabel said, it's been a pleasure collaborating with BLBG, and we look forward to many more of such sessions together. And if you do have any questions for our speakers, please pass them on to Isabel, and she will pass them on to us. Thank you very much for attending. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy.